We are finishing up the last 4 verses of Jeremiah chapter 27, and we will get a start on Jeremiah chapter 28 also. Okay. So remember, Jeremiah chapter 27, is about during the reign of King Jehoiakim, okay, and mostly about King Zedekiah. Okay, got to get the right king there, and God is warning Zedekiah and the nations around that you're going to be conquered. Okay, you're going to lose. You're not going to win as long as you stay away from God. Okay, but if you submit yourselves, these nations, then Jeremiah had this yoke and bond, and if you submit yourself to Nebuchadnezzar, the main catastrophe won't happen. There won't be all of the death and destruction. Okay, but they don't. Zedekiah just keeps leading the people the way they're going, away from God, worshiping idols, and all of these other nations. Okay, so that's chapter 27. Come down to verse 19. He's warning the priests. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, concerning the pillars, and concerning the sea, and concerning the bases, and concerning the residue of the vessels that remain in this city. Okay? Remember, we talked about how, when Nebuchadnezzar moves in, he loots the city, for the second time after the second time Nebuchadnezzar's army moves in and besieges the city and surrounds it. Okay, so before that second time, okay, he moves in. Jerusalem was collateral damage, but there were still kings. Zedekiah was a puppet king. Zedekiah rebelled against Nebuchadnezzar during his reign, but there was stuff. Jerusalem was not totally destroyed that first time. It was totally destroyed the second time. Okay? So that there was leftover stuff. Okay, there were the pillars. That would be, if you will, the pillars of the temple. Out in front, right at the front door of the front gate of the temple, the front doors, there were pillars holding up a porch. Okay, and so that was still standing. The temple was still standing. There were some of the stuff was looted. Okay, but concerning the sea, okay. Nebuchadnezzar had absolutely nothing to do with the sea. The sea was still there. Okay? The pillars of the temple are still there. The sea is the Mediterranean Sea. It's still there. Okay? That isn't messed with by Nebuchadnezzar. Okay? All those nations connected to the sea, Edom and Moab and Ammonites and Tyre and Zidon. Okay? And concerning the bases, now these bases would be, when you go into the temple, one of the first things you see is the brazen laver, where you would the priests would wash their hands, and you would clean yourselves before going into the into the temple, bring your sacrifice in. And this brazen laver sat on a base. It was a fairly large, and you can, when God tells Solomon how to build it, and actually we went through this when we went through Ezekiel, however many years ago we went through Ezekiel, you know, the description of the temple was there, and it gave the measurements of these bases. The brazen laver had a base, and the altar had a base around it. Okay, that's what he's talking about here, the bases. Okay, those weren't messed with that first time. And concerning the residue of the vessels, you know, whatever's left over, whatever didn't get looted the first time, okay, that remain in the city, for thus saith the Lord concerning those things, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, took not, okay, when he carried away Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, from Jerusalem. Remember, Jeconiah, if you look, well, I don't have them out, but Jeconiah lasted a couple of months. Then Jehoiakim took over. He lasted like 11 years, okay? King of Judah, from Jerusalem to Babylon. And that first time, as far as we can tell, that first time was when Daniel and his 4 friends, plus about 10,000 other, you know, and it's described in the Bible, good-looking, smart, you know, people of the city. That's when, that first time, that's when they were taken captive. So there were captives there. And again, you know, this remnant that were left in Jerusalem. Okay, carried away captive Jeconiah the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, from Jerusalem to Babylon, and all the nobles of Judah and Jerusalem. Okay, so there are people left over now. Yea, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, concerning the vessels that remain in the house of the Lord, and in the house of the king of Judah and of Jerusalem. That would have been Zedekiah now. Okay, there's stuff still there. Okay, they shall be carried away to Babylon. Second time around, everything's carried away. Okay, and that second time around, well, I think the Ark of the Covenant disappeared sometime during all of this. Okay, and they are still looking for the Ark of the Covenant because they think it's, you know, the archaeologists and people who are concerned about that, you know, Raiders of the Lost Ark, all that sort of stuff. Of course, remember the closing scene, Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's in a big box in a huge warehouse, and they pan back, the camera pans back to this huge warehouse. Yeah, that's where it is. But the archaeologists are still trying to find it, and you know, they think it may be in a tunnel underneath where the temple stood. Who knows? You know, it will probably be found. Well, no, it probably will never be found. I don't think it'll ever be found, but it is in heaven. You know, if you will, the model that God told how Moses, you know, instructed Moses how to make the thing. Okay? So anyway, so that stuff that remains in the house, they shall be carried to Babylon, and there shall they be until the day that I visit them, saith the Lord. Okay? Then will I bring them up and restore them to this place. At the end of the captivity, at the end of the 70-year captivity, okay, when the Babylonian Empire actually ends itself, okay, you know, God calls Nebuchadnezzar his servant and uses him But at the end, okay, Babylon is pretty much destroyed, and the Babylonian Empire is assumed by eventually the Persian Empire and everybody else, you name it. So then, and remember, when Ezra, Nehemiah, and those guys come back after the captivity and they rebuild Jerusalem, and eventually the temple gets rebuilt, and then the temple gets destroyed again and then rebuilt again. Herod built a temple, and the Romans destroyed it. And then the Muslims moved in and put this Dome of the Rock up there with its gold covering, and probably a lot of the gold on the Dome of the Rock may have come from, bits and pieces of the temple. When, like I said, there's gold from, remember, the whole front of the temple, of Solomon's temple, the whole front door on the east side was covered in gold. Okay? And there were other stuff, and anyway, all that gold is out there somewhere, melted down, somewhere else. Yeah, Fort Knox, and Hitler and his guys, they looted gold from all over the place. Anybody that has an empire that they want to build, they loot the gold from wherever they're conquering and take it. The Japanese during World War II did the same thing over there in the Pacific, and all of this gold is floating around somewhere. But okay, all of those when Belteshazzar, Nebuchadnezzar's grandson, had his big party, he brought out those implements, those vessels, those cups and stuff, and had a big party with them, and that was his last day in office. So anyway, God says, hey, that stuff will be restored, and eventually it will be, I think the Jewish people today are preparing for the rebuilding of the temple, and it will be rebuilt right there on Temple Mount, where God, that's where God picked for it. And I keep thinking, all of these missiles that, all of the, Syria and they're all, the Hezbollah and all those guys, sending all these missiles over there into Israel. I keep thinking, one of these days, one of those missiles is going to go off course, from the Muslim enemies over there, all of enemies. One of those missiles is going to go off course and destroy the Dome of the Rock. Think about that. Don't know if that, but
something's got to happen.
Something's going to happen.
The temple's rebuilt.
Yeah, and then they are. I've heard this story that they have, remade the golden candlestick, the menorah, already made, and and it was made out of gold, and the figure I heard was like $3 million to remake this golden menorah for the temple, for the Holy of Holies there. So anyway, well, God says, hey, they're going to be carried to Babylon, and then when stuff is done, I will restore them to this place. So that takes care of chapter 27. Now we can move down to chapter 28, and we meet this guy. His name's Hananiah, okay? And this is all taking place, pretty much the same time that Jeremiah is going around with this. He's built this yoke, an ox yoke, and he's wearing it. Wherever he goes, he's wearing it. When he goes out to preach, he's wearing it then. Okay. So now here we come to this guy Hananiah, and he is a false prophet. He may also have been a priest. Okay, possibly. And it came to pass, verse 1 of chapter 28, the same year, in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, this same year would have been, right at the same time as chapter 27. Okay? Reign of Zedekiah in the 4th year and in the 5th month. Okay? Assuming, if you follow along, this would be the 4th year and 5th month of Zedekiah's reign. So he's been reigning for 4 years. That Hananiah, the son of Azer, the prophet, okay, apparently Azer was also, Hananiah's dad was also a prophet, and possibly a priest, who knows? And they think Hananiah may also have been a priest. The son of Azer the prophet, which was of Gibeon. I think Gibeon was also one of the priestly cities, possibly. And which was of Gibeon, that's where he's from, spake unto me. Hananiah is speaking to Jeremiah. And he has a crowd, okay? He has an audience. Jeremiah is there, and Hananiah has an audience, because in the house of the Lord, in the presence of the priests and of all the people. So there, we've got a gathering here, whenever it is, whatever time of the year it is. Thought might have been a Sabbath or a new moon, something like that, sometime like that. That he's there confronting Jeremiah. Okay, remember, Jeremiah is God's chosen prophet in the presence of all those priests. Now, here comes in verse 2, this is what Hananiah is saying. Okay, thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, saying, I have broken the yoke of the king of Babylon. Now, we know this is not true, okay, because this did not happen. Okay? Zedekiah, did try to rebel, tried to get all of these other nations back there in chapter 27 to help him, okay? And Egypt also to help him, and they had a little rebellion there, and they lost. Okay, but so Hananiah is saying this, like I said, he's got an audience. Within 2 full years will I bring in again into this place all the vessels of the Lord's house. Okay. If you go by this, okay, this would be, 2 years. Within 2 years, remember that's how long Nebuchadnezzar's siege of Jerusalem lasted. Okay? It hasn't taken place at this time. Within those 2 years, bring those back that King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon took away from this place and carried them to Babylon. And I will bring again to this place Jeconiah, okay, back up there, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, with all the captives of Judah, that went into Babylon, saith the Lord, for I will break the yoke of the king of Babylon. Okay. And now, we know that this never happened. What Hananiah is saying here never happened. And that's how you tell a false prophet from a good prophet. The stuff the false prophet tells you is not good. It doesn't happen. Then, let's see, actually, so here's Hananiah's speech. Then, of course, verse 5, and I will stop here. We'll start verse 5 next week, since it's time to quit. Then the prophet of Jeremiah said unto the prophet Hananiah in the presence of the priests, here's back and forth, and in the presence of all the people. Okay. So that's where we'll start next week.